All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.co's Daily Brief. Dun dun dun. The cool part about it is you get my fun antics, right? I don't know what it is. I'll just start off the video by saying it. I'm not tooting my own horn, but people are like, "Holy geez, Brian's on cocaine or crack or something today." But hopefully, you see that. Generally, actually, and we were talking about this in the lounge this morning. This is a really interesting anecdote. If anything, what you guys should understand is when Brian gets irritated and fidgety and stuff and starts calling the public bimbos and all that kind of stuff, it means that, I'm pretty stressed about the market and I don't like what I'm seeing and it's getting scary and risky and stuff like that. When Brian's all giddy and, high on life, I guess so. Which is kind of weird because really, you all know my story, so I still live very much. Anyway, we don't need to go there, Thomas. But anyway, the point is that I think I'm actually feeling better and more optimistic because I see all the signs of what the kind of market that I like, the kind of market that isn't risky, that actually is very attractive. And I want to be a buyer, and I can't wait. I get excited to turn on the screen in the morning and see what's on the screen. Bitcoin's going to do what it does. And I think what we need to do is take the simple message that, I haven't really been enthusiastic about people playing Bitcoin itself for capital gains in here, because I think it's tricky and you're coming really late to the trade. But what does it mean about the entire ecosphere, about what it is that we're doing here? And of course, the altcoins are very much an expression of that ecosphere. And are they acting the way that they should be acting, given all sort of normal seasonalities? And I hate to say it, guys, but everything, actually what I saw yesterday and the day before, kind of the action in the altcoin market, I actually feel like we got a bit of a capitulation day yesterday, which was, it's not fun for new people and it's painful. And Jeremy in the lounge was telling us about friends of his just panic dumped and walked away yesterday, of course, which, probably wasn't the best thing to do here. But there's just so much more anecdotal evidence that everything is progressing along just exactly as it ought to. And if anything, I was, again, a little worried that if everything all starts face ripping straight up, then oh boy, that at this time of year that wouldn't be a good sign. So please interpret my giddiness and stuff. Obviously I'm super excited about the site and the expression of everything that Julian and I really wanted and hoped and dreamed for this site. We're building a community here. And it's beautiful to watch all of you guys in the lounge interacting, and really helping each other. That's yeah. And Julian has gone ahead and opened up the level 1. I think he did it because the level. Well, anyway, I won't go into the becauses. But the long and short of it is those people are starting to onboard. So if you are on the site and you're all excited about the level 1, please understand, Garrett's here. I haven't seen James on the site. He's probably really just overwhelmed. We're right in the middle of marking exams right now. We're still winding up the fall program. So please, I totally appreciate you're totally gung-ho, you're totally excited, you want to get going, rock and roll. If anything, take the Christmas period and just get to know the site and get to know watching the videos and the briefs and stuff, and have fun playing around in the library, and enjoy the site, the old site as it is. Keep in mind that things are going to change dramatically here over the next month or so. just pace yourself through this. And if anything, we'll get to sort of, chart talk in a moment. But if this is seasonally pretty normal, which I think it is, really, I think our big buying window is probably going to come up maybe like mid-January. February, we're going to start to see things take off. Yeah, Kevin's here. Look at this. We're coming up to that 1-year anniversary of last February, right? My hunch is Kevin and I are going to be in the lounge just pouring over charts, crappy weather outside, hunting setups, just like we were doing last year. Rinse and repeat, no difference. All right, well, okay, Garrett. I'll throw some love your way too. Garrett doesn't like me right now because he's marking exams. Anyway, if anything, interpret Brian's sort of giddiness that. I'm really proud of the hard work everybody's putting in. This is sort of our daily, conduit to the site, verbally. Lots of stuff on the go. Great to see tons of new people trying to, educate themselves, play from a position of strength. So, that's big. And I really like what I'm seeing in the market. And on balance, a great analogy. I haven't talked to Dennis Gartman in years, but he was on CNBC yesterday talking about Bitcoin and crypto and stuff. And what I found really interesting listening to him and the sort of head anchor guy on CNBC was. It's actually quite remarkable to watch older men become dinosaurs right in front of your eyes. 20, 30 years ago, Gardy would have been talking about the commodity contracts and the evolution, of the financial services industry because that was his evolutionary period. And it was just really interesting listening to these guys. So I was having sort of a bit of fun. And of course, they're not really responding too much. But I was having some fun poking at these old dogs and having to teach them new tricks. They still don't understand the difference between something like Bitcoin and Ethereum. They just don't get it. They just don't see it. So until that becomes the case where these old dinosaurs, they're all just sort of lumping them all together. They're all basically considering Bitcoin futures launch as sort of the big thing, and that is cryptocurrencies. But they just don't understand that this ecosystem is actually getting pretty damn thick, and they all play different roles and service different parts of different markets. And some of them, things like Ethereum and Waves and Ubiq and stuff, actually are platforms of other platforms. So, if anything, this is a great opportunity for you to really explore this crypto ecosphere. We put out some of those fun pictures. I know Mo really likes those pictures of the different coins and the different sectors and stuff that they represent. So this is a good opportunity for you to really sort of get to know the different sectors and the different players in the different sectors. Because if Bitcoin's doing what it's doing, my general feeling is that this inertia is going to be carried on into the broader market going forward. And I'm really, really optimistic for the future. As for managing Bitcoin itself, we do get paid in Bitcoins. So, as we're sort of banging out doubles and triples and just having a good old time trading these alts, we do build up Bitcoin exposure. And Julian, has been, basically saying, Brian, let's be professional about this. Let's be smart. We've got now just on the Trex account alone a little over 3 Bitcoins. I have been buying some alts here on these dumps. So, and I do want to be able to continue having that ability to work bids at stinky levels. I've actually been buying quite a bit lately. Just looking at the Trex list, I see I bought some pink, bought some more DCT, even though that thing's fallen out of bed here. GLD, GEO, FLO, BURST. So, you know, I'm just sprinkling some money around the field here. And, you know, I would highly encourage you to do the same thing. I warned you guys, and if you're new to this site and you're new to the game, I was a little bit worried that maybe we were rallying a little too far too fast in the alt space alone, coming off the lows. But where's a good example? Well, Ubix probably not a bad example. You know, we popped up off these lows, but we're still not through this sort of December window of yuck. And, you know, a really good example is if you just look at Ethereum and how it acted. You know, I mean, pretty good example of an altcoin. And I find it hilarious that these dinosaurs on CNBC still don't really understand the difference between Bitcoin and something like Ethereum. They just don't get it yet. So notice this action. This actually looks exactly like what we're going through right now. If I can get the chart over here. So this was last year on Ethereum, and notice there was a dump, right? And this happened. This was November, right? So this was early December. You know, this is the kind of rally where we go through like maybe a week or so, where alts have a big old party, and guys like Joshua are banging out like 10, 15 doubles in our faces. Way to go, Joshua! You're the fucking man. So proud of you. You know, and that's it. You know, that's the thing. And actually, you can see Thomas just left. Thomas is exactly the same sort of thing. And you hate these guys, right? They come to it. They pick it up so quickly, and they just run with the ball. And so way to go, Joshua. So proud of you. Just keep on keeping on. But you know, like this could very easily be the scenario that we're kind of looking at on alts. This wouldn't surprise me one bit. So if anything, that's probably what I'm thinking about. And also too, there's a quarterly forwards event on the 29th of December for OKCoin. Usually they love to mess around with Bitcoin through that quarterly futures contract, really screw with the Christmas. And I've seen this now for, like, we've been playing this now for a few years. Every Christmas, literally maybe the 13, 14-year-old boys, they get like a Bitcoin from grandma or something like that. Or, you know, they get like maybe their what's the Jewish holiday? I can't remember. The seasonal holiday money, you know, because they get money and stuff, and so they want to go and buy Hanukkah. Thank you, Sarah. They go and they want to go and buy some Bitcoin, right? And it's almost comical that week window between Christmas and New Year's. There's always a big violent swing in Bitcoin, so be careful of that. And half of it is them just messing with the kids that just, you know, they're new to crypto and they come in and FOMO buy on Christmas Day kind of thing. And part of it, you know, a big part of it is the Chinese and the forwards rollover. Which, of course, you know, is probably a huge part of our conversation here anyway, and it should be. Is you know, what the hell's going to happen here on this big forward futures event? Now, the weird part about it, and let's go check in with our sort of crazy. Let's see if this thing, it just went right off the map, eh? I guess we're not in a correction mode anymore. That would be awful if we actually had to finish this window back here. And frankly speaking, guys, don't be shocked. If that happened, I suppose, you know, we all got to live with it. But interesting disconnect here. So what was I saying? I got sidetracked by this image. Where was I? I can't remember what I was talking about. Anyway, Wow, what a move, eh? That's jaw dropping anyway. Oh yeah, the forwards. It's going to be really interesting to see for the first couple weeks how Bitcoin acts with through this event window. Now, there's a couple things that are bothering me about this. The first is that these are not going to be physically delivered forward contracts. They are just going to be nothing more than cash settlement. So I've heard two different people say that because they're not going to be physically delivered Bitcoins, that this product is highly suspect. So I do like the idea that we'll be able to buy put options on this index, but because it's not physically delivered, we actually have to like watch this thing develop and see if and when and how the hedgers position themselves. It's going to take some time for the commitments to traders reports to start filling out and for us to be able to get usable data. So, I also heard another person say that really I wouldn't make any technical conclusions about the new forward futures contracts. Well, I guess we have to technically call them futures contracts until at least a good couple weeks of trading. So interesting how good couple weeks of trading, the listing mid-December, that OKCoin quarterly contract expiry, the end of the month, 29th, Christmas coming in here. My general feeling, and I've said this repeatedly, is I think that the market's going to rally into that event. And it's going to find some sort of top here through the end of the year. I think that you're going to get sort of, technical flush outs along the way here. And as long as we're still holding this 38.2, and I find it actually kind of fascinating that we did indeed stop basically right at that 38.2. I think as long as that's the case, that we're still in sort of this Ray Burchett would tell us that this is we cannot make a determination of the trend, quote unquote, until this level has been breached. And frankly speaking, I'd have to agree with him. I also heard some people too talking about 13,000 as an important level. It's interesting how we can see that that's basically the top of value. You might get some sort of stab back into 12,000 and change. We also talked a little bit about, 17,500 is an important psychological level. If 15,000 is the pivot, then 2,500 below that, take us to 12.5, hold that 13 level. That's realistic. As well, too, I think you can actually kind of visually see the range that's been established here. I think, basically there's our floor, and they tried to panic dump the public into walking last night. Actually, it was really interesting. We were looking at a chart. Where the hell was it? Yeah, it's this one, I think. No, I think it's that one. Yeah. Last night, we were talking a bit about price action. It was kind of funny because I was out with Liam last night, and I came, hours in traffic, just ridiculous here in Vancouver. And I came back just to watch the market start melting down here. So I missed the whole rally. And then I come back, and we literally, halfway through the meltdown, we just sat there for a couple hours and just watched price meltdown. But, people were asking me about support lines, and I thought it was really interesting off of this MEX chart. I actually should probably put this in context. On the 4-hour basis, we had this pretty powerful trend line here on the RSI, and then your second line. So the break, the confirmation of the second W is a trade signal for me, which basically, you could argue came in on I guess really up in here. We had this interesting, somebody in the lounge the other day was like, oh, I totally love geometry, right? So here's a really great example of market symmetry in action. Turns out the top was, a bit further, but how ironic, price is basically sitting right at the top of that triangle objective there now. And we were sitting in the lounge last night and watching as price was coming down. And I actually drew this trend line last night. And I remember specifically in the lounge, I had drawn this trend line and I had drawn this circle. We were sort of sitting here and it felt like we had to come down to the trend line. So here we are, doink, hit that trend line. And that was sort of this action. And now we're at a pretty darn important juncture here. If we rally back up, we're probably going to consolidate for a bit here off of this important line, probably kind of like, this right here. So, yeah, and you can kind of even see now that just off of the hourlies, we're setting up sort of the momentum bull-bear battle lines. And actually, we'll see this in more detail in a minute. So, off the hourly basis, there you are. My hunch is this thing is going to have to M out. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of an uptick somewhere along here. And then if we M, then, oh boy, that's a pretty nasty failure through a really important 4-hour support zone. If we look at the lower time frames, what was really interesting about this is, there is a nasty M in RSI. Boosh, see you later. They brought the market right back down to the support line. And, of course, there is our little battle just raging on the hourly basis. We might actually get like a nice little failure in here and dump. But you can't assume that ahead of the fact. I've literally watched in the past RSI on the current bar will dump down. And you'll be like, holy crap, it's the end of the world, right? And then the damn candle finishes and the RSI doesn't register that lower low. So be careful here. Don't interpret anything until you actually see the candle print. I think, like trade location wise, if I'm not mistaken, this was one of the strategies, and it really doesn't, it doesn't surprise me. It's perfectly natural. It's perfectly simple. Where following a trend line break, especially a break this violent, on a 50% bounce of that failure in momentum, I know some guys would just simply hit that. I don't know whether I'm quite at that stage, but I will say Julian and I were just sort of chatting, and, I think having a healthy conversation amongst, people within a group is always a good idea. Always have different perspectives. I don't think technically Bitcoin has broken down, but at the same point, nosebleedy is nosebleedy is nosebleedy. So does it make sense for us, portfolio-wise, to maybe just, let them have a Bitcoin here? Maybe just build up our Tether reserves a bit here. I really wouldn't have a problem with that. I mean, basically, it's about what, a 0.5% of our net worth or something. So, maybe just doing a little bit of asset allocation isn't such a terrible idea. But that's sort of more like bigger picture kind of conversations. Trading, and of course, I know a lot of you guys are just, I want the levels. Brian, tell me the levels that we're going to trade. I like the idea of hunting shorts. If I was going to take a shot against the old highs up in this area here. Yeah, it's just good old reload zone. You got this wick, there's this interesting candle body here. Here is the original topping candle because that made a higher high. And I thought this was really interesting. Talk about freaky. Did you guys see that high? I was kind of freaked out when I saw that. I was just like, damn, what the fuck? 1666666. I think that was an accident. That seems a bit odd that would be exactly that number. If anything, that in itself might be a tell that maybe they're going to go take this high out. I will say, and I saw that just a couple minutes ago, Julian's posting some ideas in the lounge. I will say that Julian is getting extremely sharp at his RSI model. So we'll, just be watching for his updates on that. I think it's a little bit early for me to be hunting things like bots. I just have to just be patient and let this develop. Now you can at least say that we've had 33% correction of this range. So do I draw my bot levels off of these lows? That's a pretty nice structural bottom there. Tough to say. But this was one low. You can obviously see this is a very hard reversal level here on OKCoin forwards. And also against that high, that shouldn't surprise us. We got some horizontal resistance up there. So my hunch is that the 25 level is going to try and set up off that reversal level. So one low, maybe two lows. Let's let this develop. I might, have a OKCoin bot setup. Oh, something I wanted to mention to you guys earlier. Here's a really good example of what I like to call a momentum crash. I don't know whether you can see MACD here, right? It makes these higher highs and higher lows, and you're like, yada, yada, yada. Well, it's a wonderful bull. W's are bullish. And then all of a sudden, bam. So this is, very much like sort of like the first M or first W in the RSI kind of concept. We can't really trade this initial crash. What you want to do at this point, if you like using MACD, is this is basically said that this trend is done. That's what this message is. It's not necessarily that it's a short, just more that this trend is now done, what I like to call a momentum crash. And so there are key here, and we've actually done this a few times on the daily briefs over the past little while. Your job now as a technician is to simply wait for some sort of structural development following the crash. And if we come and, let's say, M out, then there is your trade signal. If we, and we often see this too, if we W, then actually that becomes a very powerful bullish reversal. So, thinking bot, right, we'd probably want to see, a nice little 3 lows develop to give us a nice trade entry. My hunch is, we could draw the levels, but, save time. My hunch is 25 is probably going to set up somewhere off of that rally peak level. So I wanted to mention, it's a good example if somebody wants to tag this video with a line, like a concept. Michael, he's totally going to be on that shit down the road. I know he is. But this is what we call a MACD momentum crash, and it basically has broken all of this bullishness. So now we have to wait for what is the pattern, what is the development following the crash to give us sort of a lead. And like we said with the RSI model, same sort of thing. Where's the RSI, right? So 4 hour, right? We did have an initial top. Really, I would argue that the trade, if there's going to be one, is going to be whatever the next M is, especially off of here. And try not to, it might probably develop something along these kind of lines, right? That's probably what I'm thinking in here. All right. And, it's interesting. Like even in the lounge last night when I was watching this pullback, I was just chatting with Thomas. I was just sort of saying, I don't know. Are you in a trade? Have you got a setup working here? I don't have anything to work with here. So, when you get a big blast off to new highs, everybody's like, bull, 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 bull. But the problem is I didn't really have anything set up off of, just the time frames I'm working with. He was like, well, I'm trading off 15-minute chart now. And I watched Julian, he's chatting there in the lounge. I watched him. He was using like a 1-minute chart to time his RSI model. And I'm just like, Jesus. All right. Now, the only way that this is doable is if you have some, pretty intense volatility in price. And we're in that kind of market where price is swinging hundreds of dollars here, if not thousands. So, it makes sense to me, going down to lower time frames, but you better know what the hell you're doing. Don't just be going down those lower time frames trading just off the cuff, or you are going to get your lunch handed to you. So, one of the big projects for the new year, of course, was Julian having his little RSI model as a subscribable little program module course onto itself. So that's something if you're really interested in him. Maybe take the level 1 to get yourself hip on all the basics of 101, building a plan, following a plan, all that kind of stuff. And, as a side, if you want to trade Julian's RSI model, he'll teach you how to do it step by step. So can't wait. I love the way this community is building out. We're all sort of contributing in our own unique way to just make this place a better place to be. Okay, gee whiz, Brian sure loves the sound of his own voice, eh? Blah, 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 blah. So I don't know. Have I told you basically what I'm thinking, or have I just sort of talked in circles here? What do you think, Mo? Was that just a big holy waste of time, or did you get any value out of that? I'm just having fun. All right, so broader market, gold's still working its way lower. Crude has this top working, but I just don't see a hell of a lot of movement right now here. Just big hurry up and do nothing. Currencies, we've been talking a little bit about the euro working its way lower, and we had lots of sort of sell pattern setups through the fall. So really not a shock to see that working its way lower. Got the Canadian dollar on here right now. I suppose we should keep the yen on the screen, but watching it, as a commodity proxy, looking a little bit heavy here, I suppose. Stock market, hearing a lot of people, and this is interesting too, because we had, obviously Bitcoin's in the news quite a bit, but and I don't really like watching CNBC too much, but when they're talking about Bitcoin, it's kind of interesting listening to them. But I am hearing a lot of people talking about 2018 is going to be one hell of a year in the stock market. And frankly speaking, I don't see why not. I think maybe we do have a Fed meeting coming up next week, so we got to sort of be prepared that the markets, might get a little jittery around that Fed announcement. But all in all, if the stock market's feeling uppy and the yield curve is still relatively well behaved, notice that the bonds really aren't taking off here. They're still sort of languishing. But I was switching. I'm watching the 10-year now a little closer. We already saw that the 30-year was trying to tick up. So now we want to see this 10-year start to move up here if we're really believing that yield curve really is going to rock and roll. So we'll keep an eye on that. But for the time being, everything just looks as business as usual. And if that's the case, and this kind of scares me, but I did hear somebody, and I thought it was interesting because Dave, I don't know whether Dave is around, but over in UK, totally helped out a lot of level oneers this term. Was great to see that. He asked his wife, where do you think Bitcoin's going to go? She came up with $40,000. Woo! What a crazy target. But what the hell? I thought it was fascinating. I put on CNBC, and some clown calling himself, of course, Elliott Wave guy, blah, 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 blah. Now, and this is what scares me here a little bit, is we actually hear people on CNBC no longer are going, oh, cryptos, chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. Now we're hearing them go, all right, well, my upside target now is $45,000. What? So that's a bit bothersome into itself. But I thought it was kind of interesting that, and these things become sort of weird self-fulfilling prophecies, where if I keep hearing this 40,000 kind of number rolling around, the market's going to go there, whether it likes it or not. Well, that would be 3x from where we are right now, eh? Okay. Yeah, well, you never know in this crazy space. So I think, for the time being, Bitcoin, it should make sense. This is a pretty big psychological number, $15,000 a Bitcoin. And now we've sort of established the top end of the range, tops up now, 17.5, whatever. probably see, you know, bottom end of the range. I don't know whether we're going to come back down to 10 right away. But this is the weekend, guys. Get ready for it. You know, it definitely could come. I think probably, you know, 50% of just this range alone, right, is 13,000. I've heard a lot of people talking about how 13,000 now should be a pretty important, this is off of this MEX contract, should be a pretty important level. You know, here we were 14.8. You know, if we do reload zones, if anything, you know, God, a lot of you guys are like, Brian, I've been wanting to buy Bitcoin. It's killing me. I can't get in. I can't get in. No, I wouldn't be surprised if you might actually get a half decent buying window through the weekend here. Wouldn't surprise me at all. So where is our reload zones at the moment? You can see where the value is here. You can see there's a lot of unfinished business here. That says 10,784 on the 78.6. I'm not making any predictions here. Top of value is Mountain Man, 12,325. That's probably more realistic if we do get a dump. And what's interesting, right? Drawing this trend line here. Look how if we actually do some market symmetry here. That's how you can go boobity boop. And then we'll go boobity boop. I could see something like that. That wouldn't surprise me. So let's see how we do against this trend line. 38.2. You can see wicks and tails like to be eaten. We could very easily be in this range for a bit. Do we double bottom here and set up bots to head us higher and momentum models turn up? Or do we top out here and have to come back down to 11, 12,000 bucks? That's probably your scenario here, right? Nice, what, $6,000, $7,000 trading range? Crazy Bitcoin. All right, for whatever it's worth, just understand I don't have a tutorial until 10:30. And actually, this is a good part for you guys because we're probably going to see the content for basic silver members go up here. Because I don't know whether any of you in the lounge or watching on YouTube were around when the school term was out before. But sometimes I can do these daily briefs for 2 or 3 hours. So I hope you're not doing anything for the rest of the day. We have one gentleman who's booked an hour of my time this morning. And then, of course, as soon as I'm done with you guys, I got to go and mark exams. So, you know, the bottom line here, though, is, wait, do you guys get the impression that I like to talk about markets? This isn't really work for me. This is what I love. Well, that's a bonus, Rob. That's Rob with an asterisk. What does that mean? You are Rob, but not really? Or there's a footnote to you? Interesting. Do you know? After ego Rob. Alter ego Rob. Oh, okay. Brian is so much happier when class is up. Maybe that's what it is, Wade. And hopefully, I don't know whether Julian's watching this or not, but hopefully you can see it. I mean, that is really stressful. It's a lot of work pulling that school off. It is not easy work. All right. So where do we want to begin? Once upon a time in a land far, far away. Interesting. We just happen to have this on the screen here. Traders who took longs offer here. Great example of why it's not a bad idea to take some profits on the way up. If you were shooting for 2-to-1s, then you got stopped out. So, interesting example of a trade setup that if you traded this massive W, you got stopped out. It happens in this game. Let's see. I guess probably the best thing to do is actually, you know, there's a couple things. You know, I don't want to be too distracted by this trade setup, but this is really interesting comment. I'm seeing this on a lot of coins here today. So maybe not a bad example. We use him. It's how is well actually, so this is a good dovetail. So Mo's been he's been lobbying for me to bring this up a couple times in the brief here. So let's placate Mo. And we did a survey yesterday. Now, the problem with my audience is they are slightly biased, so it's not really a good example of the public. We got this badass here who's made a bit of money here, right? Yeah, what you guys have to understand, ironically enough, is that I've corrupted a hell of a lot of people in this world. So when I do surveys like this, we're not necessarily getting the most purest data, Mo. It would probably be better for you to actually do this kind of survey. There's only 234 votes, right? And of course, all you guys are probably going to vote. So does that mean we're actually going to get a true proxy on the public? I don't know. But this is kind of interesting. We had only a quarter, only 1 in 4 respondents actually posted a sort of euphoric comment. So I found that kind of interesting. A lot of people, and the biggest respondents, are just simply absolutely mesmerized and sort of just kind of lost. And, a good fifth of the people are pissed off that, fuck, man, and the worst part about it is these are the people that are going to come in and buy the top, right? And you feel really badly for them. I'm not quite sure how Crap My Pants works, whether this is Crap My Pants in awe or I'm short and I'm dead. But I don't think there's many people that short in this space. So. Yeah, interesting results. And frankly speaking, a rather wide distribution. I actually thought that it was going to be more heavily skewed. I thought people were going to be like, mostly in one camp or another. So I'm actually surprised at the relatively even distribution. I suppose, like if we did this same survey, because quite a few of our audience are actually very interested in altcoins. A lot of people came to us through Coinigy, right, which is primarily sort of altcoin kind of community. So I wonder if we had done this same survey, say the middle of the summer, whether everybody would be shopping for the Lambos then. I don't know. So interesting results. I don't know how it'd be interesting, Mo. I mean, you probably he's the one lobbying us to do this. You're probably familiar with sort of statistical, these kind of samplings, and I'd be really curious to see what your interpretation of this data is. And anybody else, if you want to give us your 2 thoughts. Yeah. Okay. You've had a lot of people message you, Julian, because I'm turning you into a rock star, you motherfucker. Whether you like it or not. Yeah. No? Nobody found that amusing? I don't know. I was trying to be funny. Oh, well. All right. So what I wanted to point out, this is what I saw, was, and it was very palatable. I really felt like yesterday we had a capitulation there. When I turned on the screen, frankly speaking, I was shocked at the size of the percentage drop in a lot of them. And I just, frankly speaking, I just pulled a fucking, what do you call it? A horseshoe out of my butt here with some of these cells here, like Folding Coin and XLM and, the ASPHR. That's just because Brian was lucky. But the point that I would just make is that when I turned on the screen, and of course, when I opened up the chat room and stuff, it was just like the sky is falling. It was interesting because I even heard somebody earlier today was sort of saying, well, gee whiz, Brian, people were getting pretty damn stressed out yesterday, but he was just sort of like, And really, that's sort of the, you know, like a kind of no, um, 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 what to expect here seasonally. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I want to make money. I don't like to see positions go down, but at the same time, too, I didn't put myself into a position where I was expecting the market to face rip higher. You know, and hopefully you guys have heard this sort of general message is, you know, October, November, December, that's seasonally a crappy time of year for these things, altcoins in particular. And the long and short of it here is here we are in October, November, December. So should we be expecting a hugely uppy market right now? No. Should we be expecting a downy market where, you know, the public's going to have their heart broken? Yes. And if anything, let's see if anybody can finish this statement. When they're yelling, you should be doing something. Selling. Hey, way to go. When they're crying, you should be doing what? It's not easy. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say this game of investing and making money from speculating. I'm not going to say this is easy. Nobody said this was easy. But at the same time, too, it's just simply, that's a good album. I saw Mo's just like posting all the greatest hits pictures that he's done over the past 6 months. It's so cool seeing these images come up. I'm waiting for the football one to come back up. Hey, there's one. I'm waiting for the football guy to come back. Anyway, so I haven't put myself into a position, and thank you, Mo, great stuff. I haven't put myself into a position where I need to have the market go up right now. I haven't put myself into that position, and if anything, I've put myself into a position where I am literally going into the market, and you'll probably see me over the next month or so. I do the most buying that you're going to see Brian do in a long time. So, you know, this is actually fairly well distributed, but buying. What the fuck? Hey, you're going to come by, if you haven't been on the site through the summer, you're going to come on here sometimes and not see any buys for like weeks. So you actually seeing Brian buying, that in itself has got to be a tell. So really, that's the way that I'm approaching this. I don't know exactly where the bottom on any market is. And really, our job really isn't to pick the bottoms and the tops. That's too difficult, guys. Don't try and put yourself into the position. And that's why I've said it's not our job to publicly come out and say the exact price Bitcoin's going to top, because frankly speaking, nobody knows. I'd be shocked if this is the final top. There's no way they're gonna print 6666666. That's not gonna go down historically as the top. I can guarantee you that. But anyway, that's the top right now. I don't think it's in our best interest to call a top. Just let the damn top come in on its own. So with all that said, and if anything, here's probably a really good example of a trader's life, where you're going to just sort of pick your levels. You're going to try and have your reasons, right? You're going to pull the trigger. But, you know, if this is a win, then what we really want to see is a nice big win. If it's a loss, then you have to simply respect the fact that it's a loss and you have to walk away. In essence, this is your risk on this particular trade. So, you know, you can nanny nibbles this shit, right? There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. 78.6, it's not a bad level. I think we've talked a little bit about look left. If it lost this key levels, could go down quite a ways here. But at the same time, too, especially this funny tail. Look at that tail, eh? Wicks and tails need to be eaten. Notice how they brought the market right down to that into yesterday. Total capitulation. Like they just basically, they were like, that's it, it's over. I didn't hear a single, what was fascinating was listening to all these CNBC and all these Yahoos and stuff on there. And I didn't hear anybody talking about Ethereum. Remember, like 3 or 4 months ago, man, it was like Ethereum. Now, and it was weird. I was kind of like, in that tweet with Gartman, I was kind of like, there are other coins. They do other things, Gardy. You're going to have to, at some point, join the party. Anyway, so feeling very capitulation-y. I really like this. And this is what I was sort of mentioning in the lounge. Geez, Brian sure is rambling today, eh? But this is something that I like to see, and we often see markets actually do this at key levels. What do we call these two candle patterns where you have pretty big bodies? The tails are pretty low. I don't like the fact that this tail's gone a bit lower. That's not good. But we come back and we come right back up to the old body highs, and we don't really have that high wicks. Yeah, these are called railroad tracks. Obviously, the day's still very young. And really, if anything, we don't want this candle to take off. Sometimes we see these candles take off and then it busts the railroad tracks. Ideally, we would like the market just to finish right here, doink. And I think that's the very beginnings of what I would consider our next potential bottoming range, and maybe our next setup sets up off of that. For the time being, still a little too early to call bottom. But considering that sort of tone that I felt like people were just like, fuck it, it's over. It felt very capitulation-y. Also, something I noticed too that jumped out at me here, good old Litecoin here is trying to break to new highs. This is in versus dollars. But the simple fact that Litecoin is breaking out, we used to actually for a long time used to say Litecoin was leading Bitcoin. This happens to be on Trex. I mean, you can look at these on 20 different exchanges. But just a simple message of the market. I mean, let's just try and, let's call a spade a spade. Is this a bull market or a bear market? That's a bull market. Higher highs and higher lows defines a bull market. We may have to, go through periods of consolidation where they just simply bring the market back down to key support. That could very easily happen here. But don't miss the bigger message here. This whole idea that we're making higher highs and higher lows. And of course, if you start zooming out to things like a weekly price chart, well, then Brian has, it's so funny is that when I talk to the crypto kids and they print these insane candles right off the bat on these things, and I don't know whether this is right. This might be an issue with the listing date and all that shit. But they print these insane candles and people go, oh, there's no way. Oh, that was just some kid just fucking around with the market. And I go, well, but it's still valid price action. At some point, the market's going to want to go back up and eat that wick. And maybe that's what's happening right now, The interesting thing is when we saw Dash do this, and if anything, maybe we need to consolidate a bit here. Who knows? But, hopefully everybody, what do you think, guys? Hey, has anybody ever heard me use the expression? And let's quiz Sarah here. If I draw a, keep in mind, this is a weekly price chart. I don't think I know you, Sarah, so I'm going to pick on you. Sorry. But if I draw a weekly price chart and I start putting something like this on the chart, what kind of concept am I trying to convey here? What does that sort of look like? You ever heard me talk in any of the daily briefs about when you see price action going long? Whoops, gave you a bit of clue. Can anybody help, Sarah? How many words is it? 8 words. Oh, JF, you nailed it. The longer the run, the bigger the punch. Close. Now keep in mind, I'm a dinosaur, right? So all you crypto kids, you're probably going to come up with sort of new memes for it. But we used to call these narrow sideways channels. And the old expression is the longer the channel, the bigger the run. So, Sarah, do you think you could maybe learn from this? Is that something that maybe you ought to, if you've never heard this before, since you didn't know that expression, you think you can maybe add that to your journal? I'll even give you the link. I'll put it in the lounge there for you. Boom. I mean, do you want to get rich? This is the shit that you got to look for. And of course, you got to be able to take the trade here. Usually, this is the end result following that kind of event. Isn't that cool? And you can even have on your chart here that, I don't know where the hell the damn top is. It just keeps going and going. And I mean, that's the shit, right? You know, we had a fun trade last year, and this is the time of year to start hunting for this stuff, guys. Oh my goodness. So we had this one, and this is a trade that we took last year, and guess who was selling the whole damn way up here? Yeah, it just might. It just might, Fawaz, but not today. So you got, if anything here, this is an excellent example of why we shouldn't be in the business of calling tops. It's actually extremely dangerous to your pocketbook. You don't know where the top is. And this is kind of like Bitcoin. It might do this. You don't know. But do you see how this, if we were going to like call a top and short the market, this is your shorting window. Doink. See that right there? Right in here. Well after the bull has already run its course. This is if you're going to short. This is where you short. So with Litecoin, and I'm just having fun today. I hope you guys don't mind. Actually, usually I do about a half hour for site picks, so we'll hop on over to that next. What was that? It was Litecoin, wasn't it? I think it was Litecoin. And I remember this too, man. You couldn't give fucking Litecoin away. It was so funny. I guess it was in US dollars. This has been a really interesting journey. I'll tell you that much, guys. Because we have like literally been through an entire full cycle on this thing. So can you see the similarities? This thing's just getting going here. And do you see how maybe they might have put in a top here, but it just never developed? What do I want to do here? Go like this. Go like that. So this is that shorting window. You can see it got up to Mountain Man. It came back down against these lows and said, no, I want a W. So the interesting thing about even that short, and really I don't know whether I'd be really happy because the short, the candle to short would actually be down here. Terrible trade location. But does it make sense too? We talk about Mountain Man. Actually, I just had a tutorial with somebody on this just the other day. It's so good. But what Mountain will do is he's going to hit this level. Bam. On this dump, or sort of a return to the mean, he's going to cover half and move his stop to scratch on remaining. If you want to try and employ that strategy, it works well, but don't get me wrong, it's fucking damn difficult. Not easy at all. But that's the way pit traders trade. And he's just going to hit that level, boom. And he's going to take profits on half the position on some sort of return to the mean, move his stop to scratch on the remaining. And in this case, boom, he would have been stopped out on the remaining of his position. Does that make sense, guys? You see what he did there? Anyone? I don't know. Is anybody getting any value out of this? What do you think, Bobo? Are you still around? Is anybody still around? Have I talked everybody's ear off? Am I just talking to myself now? All right. I think that's enough for today, Brian. Anyway, so hopefully you can understand the difference here, right? So, yeah, raw LZ shorters, they might have hit it. I wouldn't because my trade signal would come in way down here. But really, we'll know that it's ready to come back down to the bottom like Verge when it actually M's out. So like the Verge had the counter trend rally, Verge M'd out, got to come right back down to the bottom. Here we W'd, more bull, rah, 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 and we broke to the new highs. Whoa, more bull, rah, rah, rah. Now, I mean, does it make sense to buy this here, considering where the breakout is? Sarah, what do you think? Do you think Brian's going to tell you, oh, yeah, this is a great buy. Just go and load up here. Oh, good. At least I'm getting through to somebody. That would be like your picture. Going and buying here would basically be exactly like your picture. Yeah, okay, I'll put my head in the jaws of a jaws. I don't know if he's going to close his jaws and chop my head off, but hey, what the hell? It sounds like fun. Why not? So that would be the same as going and buying Litecoin up here right now. But really good testament to narrow sideways channel. And if and when it does top out and put in an M, if this thing's going to draw, there's our M, and then maybe it has to come all the way back down. But that's not today, so don't need to worry about that right now. Okay, let's head on over and take a look at some of your ideas. I know somebody asked me to look at pay. Good example of, keep in mind, guys, totally speculative space that we're dealing in here. This is not blue chip investing, but the irony of it all is blue chip investing is very similar to this too. Right? We looked at General Electric chart. Here's a great example of a coin that tried desperately to put in a bottom. And I like the look of this. And then the hires up. And if anything, understanding this is venture capital, the hires up just said, okay, you know what, let's go and run those lows and see if we can find ourselves some liquidity. So that was the breakdown, and if you had traded the double bottom, there's a cute little W's to take trade here. If you were trading this and put some serious money at risk, if you didn't obey good risk management strategies, you just got bitch slapped majorly. And I sure hope you learned a valuable lesson of why you have to manage your stops. And in this space, it sucks. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to say it's easy. Nobody said making money from trading was easy. If you were trading this and we started to lose these lows, you got to be the pro. And if it comes in at like 2:37 in the morning, well, guess what? You're an altcoin trader. You got to be at the helm at 2:37 in the morning, ready, willing, and able to act. So, looking at this coin now, it's kind of like, well, the barn door is flapping away there. The horses are running off in the distance. And you're looking at me going, well, what do you think? Should we have closed the barn doors last night? And I think the answer, unfortunately, is yes. I do like the idea of, just like we looked and saw ETH, I love the idea of don't lose your focus. If you were trading a name like this, and if anything, I've seen this happen repeatedly in this space, you're going to have to be diligent and wait for the next W to come in. And I've seen this happen time and time again, where they put in W's, get everybody long, then go and break their hearts, and the next W, this motherfucker will just go straight up. I've seen it. They do it all the bloody time. Little old lady Nanny Nibbles strategies. I'm buying against these lows, and I couldn't give a rat's ass about the way they're monkeying around with the market here. It's not really that important. Because according to Brian's 2 rules of investing, we never want to put ourselves in a position where our portfolio takes more than a 5% punch in the nose. And if that's the case, and I go nanny nibbling at like 1% of my portfolio, then really this is not really even that relevant. I could actually just ride this thing right off the board, which I often do in this space. We've got a shit list. Shit list probably good about 10, 20 coins where we just never did get it. In fact, a lot of them, that actually be a really interesting statistic to see. Almost all of the coins that I bought, I've been able to bang out doubles on. There's very few coins that, and in this particular case, if I loaded up even 78.6s off of this range coming down into these lows, if I was hunting gaps and I was just nibbling, maybe I was like, okay, I really feel confident in this. I'll go and nibble a little bit more. Maybe I'm up to like 3% portfolio exposure. I think, maybe that might be a bit heavy. If you want to go up to, in this case, everybody remembers library credits, right? Anybody, do we need to revisit library credits and show you how that bottomed last year? My hunch is very similar kind of thing here. Well, and Garrett says lots of promotion behind this thing. If anything, that's perfect. What that tells me then is, number one, have they got a half decent story? So if you're telling me that they got some capital behind them and they're getting ready to rock and roll and they actually have a half decent product, then I'm more than happy to continue nibbling away here. Wicks and tails like to be eaten. I can tell you, remember, we just looked at that Litecoin chart, right? I can tell you with very, very high confidence that we're going to be back up here at some point. High confidence. So, that right there is what? 0.0012, let's call it. So we're right now at 0.00013. What you're telling me is if I go and buy this and even anywhere off of this area and we get that rally to do nothing more than just, even enter these wicks, not necessarily eat them, but just come up against these candle body highs, that's 10x. Oh, fuck, man. I should, throw a buck at that to make $10 every day of the week. But, in very typical market fashion, they're not going to make this easy. Don't get me wrong. If you're margin sharpshooting trading and you're going to take this kind of risk and you're looking for this kind of reward, oh my God, the risk reward levels are insane. So if you have to get stopped out a couple times and lose these little chunks, but ultimately you're looking to grab a big ass chunk that's like something like this, then maybe you have to book even a few of these little losses. If you're looking for that home run trade, you have to be patient and disciplined and just keep hunting. I've seen this happen repeatedly. In fact, last year I did a trade on Factum where it looked almost exactly the same. And then the motherfuckers came down here. They stopped me out. They put in a cute little W, and then the thing just took off like a rocket. So, don't be surprised if you see that kind of action. At the same time, too, because this is a new low, we're going to have to just wait for a new setup to develop. Now, people that are, sharpshooters with candles, I think, and we talked about railroad tracks on Ethereum and stuff. Right? What do we have forming here? At the very best, because this is a new low, this is a fractal. So we're going to have to wait for tomorrow's price action. Interesting how that's through the US, through the weekend. We'd like to get a nice little quiet day tomorrow. Good luck. But let's see what happens. Only time will tell. A nice little quiet inside bar, and then maybe we have a nice little fractal to trade off of. All right, so I think I'll just leave it at that. This sort of trade setup window, it failed. If you were trading this, you better have gotten the hell out. In fact, this little double bottom, if you didn't take some profits off of this, if you were trading it, that's a bit suspect unto itself because it almost looks like it's a double, eh? Not quite, eh? Yeah, well. Stopped out. Boom. Back on the sidelines. Wait. Look at this cute little inside bar. They've been breaking hearts here, right, left, and center. Again, really good analogy of this sort of capitulation. I really felt through this period here that, this as just an example. They were just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I've had enough. Fuck it. Double bottoms don't work. I want my money back from Brian Beamish. Get the fuck out of my life. Never want to see you again. Totally That's exactly the kind of feeling I felt there. And it's a trader's life, guys. Get used to it. This is why we make plans not to try and be right 100% of the time, because you're just not going to. So you might as well build a plan that says, all right, if I'm trading this, I'm going to get out and I'll wait for the next setup. All right. Well, and there's going to be a lot of coins that look like that. So, but I do remember somebody asked me about that. And I never got to it. Does anybody remember what we left off yesterday at? I got about 15 minutes until the next tutorial. And there was pay there. So anybody remember what we left off at? A day ago in crypto? I can't remember what we did 10 minutes ago. All right, well, we'll start at the most recent and work backwards. IOTA after the all-time high. What to expect now? All right, let's see what we got here. IOTA, what to expect after the new high? Toyota. All right. New high? Don't think so. Looks like we came up and tested, great example of eating wicks and tails. I'm not quite sure what the hell this is. Not a bad looking chart. Would have liked to have seen them hold these lows. So the fact that we made lower lows, this tail probably going to be eaten at some point in the future, but long time from now. Probably near-term support is going to be value high right there. Let's see if we can get everything in the screen here. Well, actually still can. So you can see, the bottom of these tails, right in that little sort of notch right there. That's probably where I'd be thinking in the short term. And because this is a new low, we kind of saw this. Remember we saw this on NXT, same thing. Because this is a new low, we could very easily see lower lows here at some point down the road. So probably in the short term, look for value high to be tested. All right, that's here. If we accept back into value, then the POC stabs against value low, hogs 80% level, 80% rule, beg your pardon. And I also don't like the fact that there is no value low here. It's a bit suspicious. So, here, and actually we had somebody on the site recently send me a message. I was so pleased. I was so proud of them. If you had taken this double bottom, I don't know what ICOs and all that kind of stuff are all about. But, even if you just bought this simple W here, that's point, 1, 2, 1. This is exactly why it's so important to take some profits. Even if you just sell half on a double, boom, boom, you got two halvers out. That's actually nice, right? Whoa, look at that. And on Twitter, people would have been like, you motherfucker, B-Mish, why'd you put the top in the market, you fucker? Hey, Joe. Anyway, I'm having fun. Oh, Paul's here. Oh, I'm dead. Hey, you'd be surprised, man. Some of these kids, when they're pumping these coins, and I come out and I put, banging out doubles, right? Man, they get pretty pissed off. All right, so the point of the matter here is you should have gotten yourself at least a free position, if not a couple free positions. And you don't know what's going to happen here. The fact that they made lower lows, to me, almost feels like this thing has to come down into this area. And that would suck if you had, done your research and been like, I love this coin, totally going to make some money right on. Oh, look how smart I am. And then you just end up not taking any profits. That would totally suck. Why do you keep saying Toyota? Am I missing something here, Sarah? Are they buying Toyota? Is Toyota buying them? IOTA equals Toyota. Okay. So this is a car now? Is that what you're saying? This is like Toyota's cryptocurrency? Just kidding. Never mind. Sorry. Okay. Is it like a play on words or something? My friends call it Toyota. Oh, Toyota. Oh, okay. Gotta remember, I'm stupid, okay? Don't mess with my head. You can confuse Brian very quickly. I think we said our due here. Honda, Nissan, Mazda. Any other Japanese cars you can think of? Oh well. Okay, POWR BTC on Bittrex. Is that Mr. 1030? Hey, Spencer. Yeah, no problem, dude. All right, POWR. Oh. Yeah, there's not a hell of a lot can be said about this thing. Good part about it is you can see that if you are buying down here, you're buying at the POC, so that's good. Looks like we've done some levels here before. Ooh, the picture's coming into focus. All right. Ooh, actually, this isn't bad. So this could be just like your what was that one, 10x, right? In fact, they didn't they? Yeah, they pulled a little FU, just ran the lows. Technically speaking, that's not a good sign, right? It means at some point we're gonna have to come back down and test these lows. I think if anything, it makes sense why the market's moving up here. We got nice bullish divergences in MACD, and Willie was very comfortably stupid. So you can see the market is sort of resolving that. You can see how it resolved the exact same situation when that happened previously. You see volume here, not impressive though, eh? I'd really like to see OBV turn, put in a nice W and head out. Not really enough data to really work with off of the higher time frames. So that, unfortunately, in itself is a bit of a cautionary note. AB equals CDs work nicely, except when you get into this situation, because clearly, I don't know, maybe at this coin. Oh, actually, no, that's still a positive number, isn't it? Oh boy. All right, so we're sitting here at 36.51. I could very easily see us flirt with 1,000 here. That wouldn't surprise me at all. So be aware of that. Actually, yeah, check out this profile. So you can see how thick it is up here. But you can see if we draw the POC sort of off the midpoint. There we go. You can see profile is pretty thick up here. It's pretty full. Oh boy, big hole there. What a coincidence, eh? 200 period moving average right in there. And this part looks suspiciously empty. So maybe get your stink bids working down at these AB equals CD levels. That's probably what I'm thinking is going to happen here. If you're lucky, get nice little rallies up to fill in that hole in the profile, bang up against the 200 period moving average. Probably two. That is like 38.2s. Oh yeah, see that? So a revisit of the POC is 38.2. So interesting. I mean, it's not really the best level here. Sitting 3,600. I could see 6,000. That wouldn't be shocking. And then probably if we do a range here to here, that same 38.2 lines up with its reload zone. So that's probably what I see happening here. Okay. Hopefully that isn't too confusing. Do 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 do. All right, check that out. 38.2 lines up perfectly with the midpoint of the reload zone, and that's basically the POC. So if you're looking for a level on this thing, I like that level. Boom. Kind of tough through here, eh? Really messy. I don't know whether, the problem here is you can see the divergence it confirmed on this burst up into here. So, yeah, it's kind of sloppy. Nothing really to get too excited about here. But if anything, whoever asked for this, I'll throw this in the lounge if you want this chart. Maybe just save it. And let's keep an eye on it through the coming week or two. See how those levels play out. Okay, I think we'll have to leave it at that for today. Do have tutorial here in about 5 minutes. So I hope you guys enjoyed my offering. Just having fun with you guys. Fortunately, I've out-talked everybody. There's nobody left listening. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Oh, Ben, did anybody? Oh, Kevin, you feel like you got some value? That's cool. All right, so you guys have yourselves a great day, and we'll do the whole thing all again. I guess tomorrow's a weekend day, so maybe we'll get together on Sunday for some fun. And of course, pop into the lounge because it's going to be absolutely nuts weekend. Let's have lots of fun chatting and throwing ideas together. If price action gets too crazy, you might just see one of the site members, Thomas, Julian, James. I suppose Garrett could if he wanted to throw together a hangout if I feel like it. So, feel free to take the initiative if you want. So, all right, guys, have a great day. All the best. Bye for now.